History books tell you the Maginot Line was a masterpiece of engineering that failed. They call it a white elephant, impenetrable, yet useless. But the logs of the French 143rd Fortress Infantry Regiment tell a different story. They tell of a descent into a madness that the government spent 80 years trying to bury. These are the final entries of Private Jean Baptiste, recovered from a sector that shouldn't have existed. The Germans had bypassed us. The radio was nothing but static and German marches. We were 300 feet below the soil of Alsace, and we were running out of oil for the lamps. In the zone of silence, the dark does things to a man's mind. You begin to hear the earth breathing. Sergeant Milleret, a veteran who had survived the mud of Verdun, decided we would break into the reserved sector, Level 7. It had been sealed since 1932 after a series of structural accidents. We were starving, and we hoped for a forgotten supply cache. We didn't care why the door was welded shut from the inside. Above the rusted iron, someone had scrawled in fading red paint, "Ne réveillez pas la pierre," do not wake the stone. When the hinges finally gave way, the air that rushed out didn't smell like a bunker. It smelled dry, like crushed bone and ancient dust. The beam of my flashlight cut through a darkness so thick it felt like wading through water. We found the mess hall first. There were 12 of them. Soldiers sitting at long wooden tables as if waiting for a meal that never came. But they were gray. Not the faded blue of a French uniform, but the matte, lifeless gray of a statue. Milleret whispered that they were decoys, dummies made of plaster to trick a boarding party. He walked up to the figure at the head of the table and tapped its helmet with his bayonet. It didn't clink like steel. It sounded like a hammer hitting a tombstone. Thud. That was when I saw the plates. The bread, the meat, it was all stone. Everything in the room had been coated in a thick, calcifying mineral. These weren't carvings. These were men from the Great War who had sat down in 1918 and simply never stood back up. Their skin had been replaced by a fine, gray fungus of lime, preserving their terror for eternity. Then, the first blackout happened. My flashlight flickered, dying for 10 seconds. When the light returned, the soldier at the head of the table was gone. We spun around, the light shaking in my hand. The statue was now standing directly behind our youngest recruit, André. It was inches away. Its hand was raised, fingers spread as if reaching for his throat. The face was a featureless mask of lime, but the eyes, there were no lids. Just two dark pits that seemed to be drinking in our light. We tried to flee, but the bunker was changing. The limestone was growing, acting like a living scab over the architecture. The stairs we had descended were gone, smoothed over by a slick, white mineral growth that made the walls look like the inside of a throat. André tripped. He fell into a shallow pool of milky white water. He tried to scream, but as he opened his mouth, he began to cough up gray dust. We watched as his skin hardened in seconds. He didn't die instantly. He just became rigid. His eyes turned to glass, and he became just another statue, frozen in a pose of eternal prayer. I am writing this now, leaning against the final steel door. I can hear the scraping behind me. Thousands of stone feet dragging across the concrete. Scrape, scrape, scrape. They don't breathe. They don't speak. They just wait for you to stop moving. My joints are stiffening. My fingers are turning white, not from the cold, but from the lime. The Maginot Line isn't a fortress, it's a digestive system. It doesn't want soldiers, it wants bricks. The truth behind the legend. While the story of the living statues is a terrifying piece of military folklore, it is rooted in a chilling reality. The Maginot tunnels were infamous for bunker fever, a psychological breakdown caused by isolation and hypoxia. Historical records confirmed that the humidity in these deep sectors was so high that calcium carbonate would rapidly coat any still object, creating ghostly white shapes in the dark. Many soldiers reported moving walls and shuffling shadows, likely hallucinations brought on by the thin air and the crushing weight of the earth above. Whether it was a supernatural curse or a mass psychological collapse, the men of the 143rd were never the same. Some things are better left sealed in the dark.